Welcome to the next episode of KapVista Klips. Today I have Zach with me from Sativa Building Systems, and I'm excited to understand, what he's doing, what the future looks like for sustainable buildings, and really understand, his driving force. Welcome. How are you?
Yeah, thanks. It's good to be here. I'm doing well. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, awesome. So we'll kick straight into it. Tell me your story. Tell me, how did you get to this point? What's your background? How you got to this point here?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about how I came up with the idea to create the Z panel. It really started. This was about 11 years ago. I actually moved into the house that I currently live in. And that first winter we lived here, my youngest daughter at the time was just sick all winter. And we kind of chalked it up to, well, she's in a new environment. It's winter. She's just, catching lots of stuff, she's getting colds and flus and whatever. But she was sick pretty much that whole winter. And then one day I walk into her bedroom and I look at the bottom of the wall and I see there's these little black specks on the wall. I'm like, well, that's a little weird. And I go and I look closer and it looks like black mold. And then I feel the carpet and the carpet is all wet. And I'm like, okay, that's not supposed to be that way. And I ended up tearing into that wall. And that wall was just covered with black mold. And that is what really got me thinking, okay, this is the way we build homes right now is deficient. And I knew that they were deficient because I used to work in construction. I worked in construction for 8 years. I built a lot of homes. And I know that you're always trying to keep water out of the wall. That's really the way that makes sense, right? You want to keep the water out, but inevitably, in one way or another, water gets in. And that's what happened. We had, this was in the middle of winter, so we had ice damming on a window. It's cold here in Wisconsin, so we had ice build up on a window, and it dripped into the wall, and it caused mold to grow. And that's what made my daughter sick. I didn't put it all together until I finally discovered that mold. But I kind of went on a mission at that point to find a building material that solves some of these problems. So I always had a little bit of an interest in alternative building materials, but this was really kind of the impetus to push me to that next level. So I, started scouring the internet and researching all these different materials, and I came across something called hempcrete or hemp lime. And it's a material that really has been popularized in Europe, and it's made primarily from the inner woody part of a hemp plant. And it had all these amazing properties. Like, as I'm reading about hempcrete, I'm like, wow, this stuff is fantastic. The big one is it's mold resistant. It's non-toxic, breathable, fire resistant, pest resistant. I mean, literally, like, checked every box you'd want it to check. And I'm like, why aren't people using this? Like, why isn't this huge? Why isn't everybody building their homes out of hempcrete? And I found that hempcrete actually has just two deficiencies that have prevented wide scale adoption. It doesn't have great compressive strength, so it's not real strong top to bottom. And it also takes 6 to 8 weeks to dry out if you were to pour it on a job site like concrete. And then I'm thinking back to my construction experience. I'm like, yep, no one's going to want to wait 2 months for a home to dry out. It's too long. So I thought, well, let's take this material and put it into a format that is more usable. And I thought, let's engineer out those two deficiencies: the fact that it takes forever to dry and it doesn't have great compressive strength. And that's how I came up with the idea for the Z panel. And the Z panel really is a precast, construction-ready hempcrete block panel that is used to construct the walls of buildings. And it has all those benefits of hempcrete that I mentioned prior, mold resistant, pest resistant, rot resistant, fire resistant, all those things. But it's in a much more usable format. So it shows up on the job site ready to use. So that's the backstory behind how I came up with the Z panel. It really was because I experienced firsthand the deficiencies and the health impacts on one of my family members. And then I did a little research too after that. I found that 70% of all homes have some degree of mold growth, and 28% of all people are profoundly affected by mold. I'm like, wow, well, this is a problem. So I wanted to solve that problem.
Awesome. So you're looking to solve a problem that you experienced personally, your family experience personally, and you've changed, a product that was on the market but was inefficient. So well done. So that's how you started the company, and that's your reason. Reason behind it. Tell me more about the team behind the company. Is it just you? Do you have a team of people behind you? And putting my customer hat on, help me understand the solution.
Yeah, sure. So for a long time, it was just me. So I like to say this business started by me playing mad scientist in my garage for several years, because I didn't initially know if I was onto something that could really be scalable or could really be brought to market. And I'd spent a lot of time actually pretty methodically going through a lot of testing and development in my garage. And when I got to the point where I realized, like, okay, I got something that works, I sought a patent and decided to launch the company. And that was about 4 years ago. But about a year ago, I actually started to build a team around me, because it started to get to the point where I'm like, I can't quite do all this myself. So yes, so we're a small team right now, a team of 3. So it's myself, and then my COO is a gentleman named Eric Jensen. Mm-hmm. Eric's got great background in sustainability, team building, process improvement. He's an 18-year military veteran, just really, really solid fella. The other person is actually my brother. So the CFO is my brother, and he has even more construction experience than I have. So, and he has a lot of experience in asset management. He actually worked for one of the larger multifamily developers here in Wisconsin. So he's managed portfolios of over $1 billion, and really good at making sure that we're using funds efficiently. So that's the team right now. It's the 3 of us. And once we have the production facility up and running, we'll hire also production workers. But right now, that hasn't been a necessity. So it's a team of 3. And I'm sorry, that was a 2-part question. I just answered the first part.
The other side is tell me about the product. So as a customer, if I'm looking to build my house, what is the product? Is it an external wall, internal wall? Is it insulation? What does it look like?
That's a great question. So the Z panel is a block panel that would be used primarily to construct the exterior walls of buildings. Mm-hmm. You could use it for interior walls too, but the benefits are diminished with an interior wall, because typically you don't need to insulate interior walls. It's just your exterior, because the biggest thing that the Z panel does is that it's a rigid insulation. So it provides it takes the place of, like, think about a standard wall, and I know that this is at least standard here in America. The walls are constructed a little bit differently around the world, but it's always kind of the same concept. You have your insulation, you have your some sort of exterior sheeting, you have some sort of interior thermal barrier, usually it's sheetrock, and then you have a vapor barrier. And the Z panel actually takes the place of all 4 of those with just one material. So it takes the place of your exterior sheeting, your insulation, your sheetrock, and your vapor barrier. And so the product itself, and it's very easy to use. It's very much like it mimics a carpentry process, or it works very, it synergizes well with carpentry. It's not like a masonry process. It's very much a carpentry process to use the Z panel.
Okay. And can you modify the facade? Can you make it look like other products?
You couldn't, yes. So that's a great question. A lot of people have asked that. And you could put any type of exterior you wanted on it. So, various exteriors are more popular at different parts in the world, and even here in the U.S. Southern U.S., stucco is very, very popular, and that would probably be our recommended exterior. Would be a lime-based stucco, and the reason why I would recommend that is because it retains the breathability, which is one of the neat features of a Z panel. But you could, as long as one side, whether it's the inside or the outside, retains some breathability, you'll still be able to reap those benefits of that feature. But yeah, you can cover it with vinyl siding, or you could have a brick facade, or you could do steel, or you could do really you could cover it with whatever you wanted, and same thing on the inside too. Probably the most common would just be to apply plaster and get like a a sheetrock type finish, but you could do wood paneling on the inside. You could affix whatever you want to the Z panels.
Okay, and you said it was flame resistant.
Yeah. So hempcrete's unique in the way that it actually is fire resistant. This has been tested. We'll probably be going through this test ourselves as part of our code approval report. But other people who have tested Z panels have even been university lab tested. Most have actually been able to demonstrate the 2-hour fire rating. So that's like the standard that is common for like a commercial level fire barrier. So it's very thermal resistant because every little piece of hemp in the Z panel is covered with a lime plaster, which hardens and is like rock. So it's kind of like trying to burn rock.
Okay, because that's very interesting, because here in Australia a few years ago we had massive bushfires and a lot of homes were lost. So for me, thinking, my brain is just thinking about these things. So using that as a building product may work well in bushfire affected zones.
Yes, absolutely. The people have found that areas where you might have wildfires, and also areas that are maybe prone to flooding, it actually works well. That's another unique feature of the Z panel, is that you can completely soak a Z panel, and as long as it's not continually being soaked, it will dry out. So if you're in an area that has a flash flood and let's say the 4 feet of your home gets flooded, the Z panel will be fine. It could just dry out and it'll actually go back to its original strength. Whereas standard construction oftentimes it'll be deteriorated in some way or another.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about your product is it carbon neutral?
Yes. Yeah. So the Z panel is it's technically even carbon negative. So it's really, really kind of fascinating, because the lime component of it is what makes it continually act as a carbon sink or sequester carbon, where the essentially the hardening of the lime plaster within the Z panel, it absorbs carbon. They estimate for up to 100 years as it continually hardens. Now, the bulk of that happens early on in its lifespan, right? But it continually captures a little bit of carbon. We did an analysis recently where we were very confident that at the point of a home being constructed, it is actually carbon neutral, if not carbon negative, even with all of the carbon inputs and having other materials that are carbon positive included in the home build. But it's very possible to have a carbon negative home upon completion.
Wow. Awesome. That's incredible. So as a company, what milestones have you achieved?
Sure. So what we've done so far is we have a functional prototype. We've done a small test build to ensure that the prototype worked the way that we had hoped, and it did. It really met all of the standards that we wanted it to. We also have we've obtained a U.S. utility patent, so we're not patent pending. We've been issued a U.S. utility patent. We've done a pre-seed round, which has actually allowed us to build a manufacturing facility. We're right in the middle of building that manufacturing facility. It'll be completed. The shell of it will be completed here at the end of June. We're hoping to be fully moved in and start doing some test production runs by August. So that's what we're looking to do here soon. We also have started the full code approval report. So we're working with ICCES, International Code Council Evaluation Services, to pursue the code approval report for residential construction. So that'll allow us to be able to sell wide scale in residential construction markets. So those are some of the milestones we've hit so far, and we've done this while not yet having to take on any company debt. So we're in a really, really healthy financial position right now.
That's awesome. So I mean, I think this product is, especially being here in Australia, it's quite an important product, considering what we've been through over the last few years. The bushfires and floods. Considering the product itself, would work well in Australia when we have soaring temperatures throughout summer, and then probably work well where you are, in where the temperature drops far below zero, in the Midwest. So it actually sounds like an incredible product.
Yeah.
So tell us about the raise. How much are you raising? What's it being used for? What's the offer and the momentum? I know you said you've done your seed rounds and you're going through building the factory, but how much are you raising now, and what is it being used for?
Yeah, so this raise is a $1.2 million raise, and that is on a 9.8 post money valuation, and this will be used to a few things. Number one, this will give us about 18 months of runway. So when we start production, we'll have enough that we can ensure that we can produce Z panels for 18 months, because we know that we're going to start pre-selling right now. We're going to start working with builders, contractors, architects, all those people that might have an interest. But that will ensure that before we actually are generating profit, we have some cushion there, and we have at least those 18 months where we can start producing really heavily. It'll also help us ramp up our outreach. So we know that this product is a little bit unique in the way that we have to approach our sales and our distribution from two angles. We have to get the consumer on board, but we also have to get contractors on board, because if you have someone who, let's say I'm building a home and I'm like, hey, this is a cool product, I want to use it. You also need your contractor to say, oh, I know how to use that, and I'm familiar with that. So we kind of have to, there's a consumer awareness piece or consumer education piece, but then there's also just building relationships with some of those contractors, architects, even retail outlets. So we want to be able to really take that to the next level. So that's what these funds will primarily be used for. And also just to ensure that if we find that we are in needing of a manufacturing enhancement, we can do that. Even with the pre-seed money, we'll be able to do the basics of manufacturing. We'll be able to purchase the equipment necessary, but as we start getting into some of this test production in August, we might find that there's a piece of equipment that we could use that will make production way more efficient, and then we'll have some funds available to us where we can pull the trigger and make sure that we're manufacturing as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, and in terms of the momentum, what's the momentum like? Do you have any commitments already? What does that look like?
Yeah, sure. So right now we have 7.8 million in letters of intent, and that is what we're at right at this moment. We have some other that are in the pipeline. We don't officially have LOIs, and the LOIs that we have right now are from larger developers. We've also had some very large developers reach out to us and say that there's potential that they could be purchasing 20 to 40 million annually. Now, we don't have that LOI officially secured yet, but we're working to get that. There's definitely been substantial interest. And then we haven't really done advertising to the consumer yet, because we're not quite ready to deliver. People don't like to hear, yep, we're 3 years out from delivering, or we're 2 years out, or anything like that. They want it when they see it, they want to buy it, right? So we've held off in doing advertising to the consumer, but even just with organic PR and those types of things, we have a list of hundreds of consumers who said, yeah, I would buy this. I'm very interested in this. So we definitely have pretty good traction, but we know that we want to get that even up to the next level as far as just consumer and contractor interest.
Yeah, awesome. So from a consumer's point of view, what's the costing? Is it on par with your traditional building products? What does it look like from the consumer point of view?
Yeah, great question. So when I first started doing this, when I did cost analysis, we estimated that this was back in like 2018, 2019, that it would increase the overall cost of a home about 10%. And then building material costs just went weird. And I don't know if that's the case in Australia or other places, but yeah, like lumber prices skyrocketed. So then we were able to say, yep, we will be on par with standard construction. But now those prices have came down a little bit, so we're kind of back to saying it is a product as of right now. It'll increase your overall home costs about 5 to 10%. But that's with our production processes the way they are currently. We're fairly certain that, especially as the hemp supply chain becomes more robust, which I'm guessing that's the case in Australia. We know it is, even growing in parts of Europe, and here in the US, it's just exploding. So hemp's becoming really big here in the US, and I think globally it's not shrinking. So as that supply chain develops, we're fairly certain we'll be able to become very, very cost competitive, where it won't be even a premium cost at all compared to conventional construction.
Yeah. What might be of interest in coming from the insurance world is that once you have your product certified, insurance companies may be able, you may be able to partner with insurance companies and show them your product, because they may be able to get a reduced premium if they use a product like that, because it is flame resistant and somewhat water resistant. So the cost for insuring a home becomes less, and the costs associated with from an insurance point of view could be less as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say that, because just today I was reading about the first hempcrete home built here in the U.S., because I wanted to just refresh my memory on it a little bit. And this was in 2010. It was built in Asheville, North Carolina, by the mayor of Asheville. He loved the idea of building a hempcrete home, so he was kind of a pioneer. And yeah, he did say that it actually reduced his homeowner's insurance, I think, by like 50%. And that was with a product that was super novel at the time. Like, he was the first hempcrete home in the U.S. So even then, he was able to reduce insurance costs. So I'm fairly certain that'll be the case for our products too.
So you may have a 5% increase in total, home building costs, but over the life of the house, the insurance premium reduces, which you save money that way.
Exactly, and two, in utilities as well. So heating, cooling,
exactly.
you'll save costs over the life of your home with that, for sure. I'm sure in Australia you guys have temperature swings too. It gets real hot, and in some places it might even get pretty cool there. So yeah.
In Australia, especially in summer, it's not uncommon to have 42, 43 degrees Celsius days, which I'm not, don't quote me on my calculations, but I think that's somewhere around the 118, 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So
sounds about right.
Yeah, quite warm days. So if you can save money on your cooling in summer using a product like that, it's definitely an advantage. But we'll leave it at there. Thank you very much for jumping on and chatting to me. This is an incredible product, both from a building product point of view, but also a sustainability point of view. So, investors who are looking after that sustainability offering, this is a perfect product for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that sustainability is on a lot of people's minds, and this is one of those things that investors can feel really good about, because I mean, it doesn't get any better than carbon negative. Carbon neutral is this kind of the standard, but this is actually a carbon negative product. So it's really cool in that sense. That's why I really believe in it, and I know a lot of others will too.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for jumping on with me, Zach. It's great. If anybody wants to know more about this incredible product and opportunity, I'll put the details in the bottom of the video, and you can also reach out to me directly. But thank you very much. It's been great to chat.
Yeah. Hey, thank you.
No worries. Bye.
Yep. Take care.